Yes, let's get started. Just real quickly, program overview for those of you who either haven't heard of Home Energy Score or sort of just curious about the big picture here. When Energy Smart Colorado first started, we were a Department of Energy grant funded program. And the goal was to create this replicable and sustainable efficiency program. And we had initially used adopted the home energy score when we started back in 2011. It was supposed to be a miles per gallon for your home. Great concept, just wasn't ready for prime time, and we ended up creating our own solution for an assessment report. Um, Last year, we started getting into a deeper partnership with the Colorado Energy Office to actually be the home energy score provider again in rural communities in Colorado. Forecore has been doing this for several years, Greg. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so we're hoping to fulfill that role going forward. And so, CO's goals with this is to increase uptake of the home energy score, help penetrate that point of sale market, populate the green MLS, and really just have another tool to educate people on the state incentives that are available, mortgage incentives, and so on. And so that's kind of the big picture of why we're a partner on this home energy score and really wanted to bring our report to the next level here to allow energy modeling and quick and easy recommendations to homeowners. So definitely see this as a benefit for both the analysts and homeowners. We haven't had modeling in the past, and so I think it just brings a little credibility to your scope of work. But anyway, couple quick things about the requirements for home energy score. You do have to be a home energy score rater in order to deliver a score to a homeowner. So we're working with CO to be the contractor for that. But individual analysts will still need to complete rater certification. That's an online test that I'll be sending you a link to. And I've got here in this document I'll be emailing today just an informational page on DOE's website. It has a quick overview video. It's a little lame, but it's kind of a good big picture of what to expect. If you're a ResNet person, you've probably already been through the 3D virtual home test. If you're a BPI guy like me, this is kind of a new thing, but should be an interesting test. You basically go through and rate the home online, and I think you have to do several homes, different test cases, and it's pass fail. It's pretty straightforward. So I will also at the end of this webinar send out a PDF application form. So if you're a BPI analyst, you'll need to complete this form to get your rater certification, and I will submit it to the Energy Office on your behalf. They're going to pay the expenses for this training. So when you see the $200, don't worry about it. It's about a 6-page form.
Marty, it sounds like you're going to send out some info, but if you could just send out one clean email that says, here's what you have to do as an analyst, like steps 1, 2, 3, sign up, send this in, just so it's real clear cut to the analysts of exactly what they need to do.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So anyway, this is the form. Most of it's self-explanatory, but if you have any questions about it, just shoot me a message and I'll help walk you through it. I'm going through it now, so I'm hoping to get free training first before the rest of you, so I can answer any questions. But
now this is John. What if we actually have gone through that training? I remember there were two or three of us did it through Internet.
Yeah, that's
So,
fine, John. I'm just going to work with Peter directly to make sure that you're on the Energy Smart contractor list so that we know your scores are coming through our program.
okay.
Yeah, this is Greg. I'm still working under 4-core, but Glenn Dickey at SRA, they would like me to move under either the Energy Office or preferably under the under the Energy Smart program instead of 4-core.
Okay.
So, and I'm currently scoring homes, and I could just speak to a couple things on the score briefly, but I don't want to take up much time.
Yeah, real quick, Greg, that'd be great.
We started doing it at its inception. In fact, I went back to the Better Buildings program. I was formerly a HERS rater, but felt that was a really kind of expensive rating. So we were looking for something that could be used on the MLS. And so the score really fits that bill. It does have quite a few weaknesses. It does not evaluate base load. It does not, you cannot add in renewable, geothermal, solar thermal, or solar photovoltaic attributes. So it's a pretty strict, people that have those attributes on their home sometimes don't score that well, but they've worked hard to make the score better. I think I've done about 50 homes on it, and I can actually, after filling out the Energy Smart Colorado, collecting that data, I can use that and run a score in probably about 15 minutes. So it's very fast, and it's working really good to say to the homeowner when I meet with them as a follow-up meeting, I say, here's what your home is now. Here's what it'll be if you do these improvements. And it has been a really good motivational tool to get people to make upgrades. So even though it has a few weaknesses, I would say it's a really effective tool to motivate the client. And that's basically my summary on the score. One other little thing is that having done HERS rating, been a HERS rater, which I've let expire, and currently a BPI analyst, the test for the score I felt was harder than the BPI test.
Really?
So, yeah, definitely study up. It's time to definitely study up for the test to refresh your skills because they've made it pretty rigorous for whatever reason. Maybe they've changed that since.
Is there a sort of
John, I agree with
me,
you. Yeah, it was, there were two possible answers on half of those questions in the test, and both of them were right. So, really, knuckle down and get the fine details.
Is there a specific dedicated manual to the home energy score test?
What made it hard too for some of our guys, some of the analysts that had previously done it down here, you had to score 3 homes in 90 minutes, but they gave you the data in a totally messed up, like no one would take such messy data and disorganized, and the geometrics of the volumetrics of the homes they gave you were just a little bit challenging to calculate. So it was unnecessarily cumbersome at the test, and it was the first time you're going into to use this online format. Now that I'm used to it, I can whip through it. But so if you know someone that's a scorer, I would say practice entering a home or two with them before you take the test, because you'll be able to zip through the tool a lot faster.
Good advice.
can you use the tool as like a practice and go through a couple practice editions before you take the test?
Well, you can take it as many times as you want, but they have a video where you watch someone input a home, but that's a lot different than being timed and actually inputting one. And they may have changed it since we did it, I think it was 3 years ago when we signed on. So, but I just remember it being more rigorous than the BPI exam, than the written.
Okay.
So
Well, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for the vote of confidence on that, Greg.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, are you going to have to retest here for this? or
I don't
already
think
in?
so. No, I'm still a qualified score, and
Yeah.
I redid my DPI is good for the next 3 years. So
Okay.
I should just transfer under Energy Smart Colorado, I believe, as the provider. So I'll probably be given a new login, and we can talk to SRA, Patty Capaz, and Glenn Dickey about how to switch the login.
Okay. Well, something to look forward to. Thanks for that insight.
Sure.
Sounds like it's going to be fun. So,
I mean, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
just yeah, in the interest of time, I figured let's keep it moving. So new template, just real brief overview. You can peruse these at your leisure, but basically some minor updates to the old form, and then the addition of the home energy score metrics that we needed to add or alter our old data set. So there were about 34 fields that were either changed or new, into the tool from the old form. So if you're used to the old form, it's a little bit different, mostly on the envelope inputs. So RFP has also seen some tweaks, some more auto calculation for a little more accurate billing. So anyway, if you have any specific questions about that we can't get to today, email me obviously right away if you have any questions. But hopefully we can walk through it today, and you can ask me right now. So any other overall questions before we jump into the report?
I would just add that the other big change on the new version is just the workflow. The sections have been reorganized just in terms of sequencing to help that workflow process.
Yeah, a little tighter, a little more step by step. So the idea there was that we didn't really, add any additional time to the audit. We just tried to sort of rearrange and optimize as much as we could to make the home energy score inputs just look and feel like part of our regular report. So let's get into it and see how successful we were at that. So as John Ryan mentioned, I'm not on my iPad. So any specific questions about the iPad, I will try and answer. I'll run and grab mine if I need to. As far as actual input during the assessment or getting photos in or any of that technical stuff, let's see if we can save that toward the end of the call and hopefully address any questions you have before we hang up today. Okay, so real briefly, just front page, not much has changed here. Tightened up the look a little bit. Obviously your logo goes here into the Energy Smart box. When you get this template from us, it should all be pre-populated, whether it's John Ryan or Charlie sending you the template. The new template is embedded with a unique ID that will bring it back to the appropriate account in our database. So if you can, don't edit any of these homeowner fields with the address or phone number. If you find a mistake or have to correct something like that, I would say that's fine. If it's contact information here like email, phone number, it might be worth letting Charlie or John Ryan know that you've made a change to, if it's important contact information, like a phone number that was incorrect. Nothing substantial on this front page has altered other than we're really focusing on these top 3 priorities now. Really want these to be the overview for what the homeowner should be focused on. Your 3 takeaway bullet points. If it's very complicated and you really think they have an issue with the envelope, don't go into a lot of detail here. Just say, refer to page 7 for details, but your envelope really needs some work. Charlie, any other comments on page 1?
Not really. I think everybody just conceptually that it's pretty much the same as the last version. Be sure to try to do an overview photograph of the house in a landscape orientation.
Yeah.
To fill out that rectangular box as much as possible. That's it.
Great. So page 2, we've just made this a little more, I guess, engaging for the homeowner. Fewer sections up here in the top priorities. Really just broken down into these 5 major categories. And the idea here is that if you have a health and safety issue, that you check this box for us. It will trigger an email notification to Charlie or John Ryan, and we can help make sure that appropriate follow-up has been done.
Yeah, if I get one of those alerts, I'll usually just forward it over to you, just as a reminder to follow up with the homeowner on whatever that alert is.
Yeah, so just just understand, only check that box if it really is an urgent safety issue or a gas leak or something like this. Spillage on an appliance, on a combustion appliance under natural conditions, I would certainly put here. And then next to it here off to the right, even though it says details, again, there's not a lot of room here for detail. It's really just the, see the we'll get the details from the heating and cooling section, but this is like, what is the issue here? It's a gas leak at the boiler. It's a frayed cable on the plug-in for the range. Whatever you see that's a safety issue, just note it out right there. That's more for the homeowner so they can instantly and quickly and easily tell their plumber or their electrician, what needs to be fixed.
Hey, Marty, do
yeah.
those detail lines have text wrap? Can you get 2 lines of text in one of those boxes?
No, the text will stay in there. It won't be visible to the homeowner though. So really just try and keep it visible to one line.
All right.
This basic home information, same as usual, but fewer fields are visible here, come from the homeowner when they sign up. So, definitely vet these fields if they've put, I don't know, if they've put single family home and it's actually a townhome, this is where you would fix that and make that correction. So important to review these. Year built, we don't always know. We're kind of relying on homeowners a lot of the time, but double check these fields are all correct and feel free to update them. Right away, we see the impact of the home energy score with townhome. If you do have a townhome, that is a modelable building type in home energy score. Although apartments are not, over and under units are not. So if you do have a townhome, then we do ask you to tell us if it's left, right, or middle unit. So we can, the model is a little more precise. And that's as you're looking at the front door. The home energy score inputs are all based on your orientation to the front door as you walk in. So we want to know, does the front door face southeast? Does it face north? Which direction is the door facing? So select that here, and then all the inputs for home energy score that utilize orientation will be based on that front, left, right, or back. So that's a very important field, and it is a required field. You see it highlighted here in red.
One note about the floor area, definitely pay a little extra attention on the floor area and get that right. That's for conditioned areas. So if the garage is conditioned, I would add that floor area into the total, and then be sure during the blower door test that there is connectivity between the main living area and the garage, because that has obviously impact on the natural air changes.
Yeah, and this story's above grade. It's the same as it's always been. That's above grade only, so we allow for half stories there. Moving right along, this utility information is previous 12 months usage. We're still working towards smoother ways to deliver this to you already populated, but you're going to get the template most likely with typical Colorado Home here. These are averages that, to be honest, I just made up based on a typical, and this is not typical usage, but the template you'll be getting is based on about 7,500 kWh annual. So the bars are a lot shorter here, but this is just to give you an idea of what to expect. So same with gas. Most people probably don't use 4,000 therms, but anyway, so
Marty,
yeah.
Marty, do you want to talk a little bit about the sort of vision behind this? Because I think the standard home the typical CO home will be what we sort of typically populate this with, but the vision and the real opportunity for the analyst would be to work with the homeowner to either get the usage numbers before the audit by either getting them to collect their bills, because you could input this on site. So if the homeowner had their electric bills or their gas bills, you could pull them out and manually type in KW and therm usage within those fields. So
Yeah,
even if it's filled out as typical, you can fill this out on site with the homeowner.
absolutely. Great point. That is the idea. And I think, John, didn't you populate this for the homeowner on your first audit?
I did the where it says typical Colorado home. There's a drop down, and you can change it to your home. And I just filled it out. It's all point and replace.
Great. And how long do you think that took you? Was that quick and easy, or did that take a while?
Actually, the customer I had emailed him and asked him for it, so he had copies for me ready. So I just took them with me for the file, and I imported in,
Okay.
as I was generating the report later, and didn't waste any of his time.
Great.
Hey, Marty,
So,
there...
one of those first contact things where you let them know what they need of, you're expecting of them to generate, and give them a couple of days to get all that together.
Right.
Hey, Marty, where can you input the cost per therm or cost per kilowatt hour? Because that obviously has an effect on your total annual costs.
Yeah, we should probably add that. We have boilerplate numbers for those right now, 90 cents and 10 cents. And so we can work to include that here, so you can easily edit that.
Okay.
Right now, they're just boilerplate pass-through fields.
Okay.
Okay, great stuff. So yeah, you can, to John's point, you can, if you don't have gas bills, you can leave that at typical CO, Colorado Home. And then if you do have electric, you can just alter it there. So FYI, those are independent from each other. All right, I'm going to make a note here to add fuel costs to be editable.
One other question
Yeah.
that would be great to be able to change the rates, because in La Plata County we're 12.5 cents per kilowatt hour. In the city of Durango, 13.1 cents with the franchise fee. And I'm ending up using the Energy Smart Colorado template for clients on propane as well. So I know that's not something Atmos or Source Gas would care about, but it's such a great audit template. Could we maybe make one that could just have BTUs or gallons instead of therms?
Yeah, we can discuss this in a little more depth later, Greg, but I probably would just convert it to therms, do the 0.94 conversion, and then it'll be noted on this report that they're propane.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, perfect.
All right. Moving along here, next page 3, is our heating and cooling section. So what we've tried to do with these sections is make them very consistent on what we're asking for regarding the equipment and for cooling, heating, water heater, like the inputs are all the same type, manufacturer, model, fuel, efficiency, year installed. So this is just a minor tweak, but we did, I don't know if water heater had, exactly the same inputs. Some of these asked for system age. Now we're all looking for just year installed on all of these inputs. Still sometimes challenging to find that, but we don't have to guess the age really. We just try and get the year it was put in. So, most of these are drop downs. These have been vetted by Optimizer as valid home energy score inputs. So at this point, we're pretty locked into them. That being said, if you run into unique heating types, just shoot an email to Charlie or John Ryan that it wasn't in this list. You made your best guess, and we won't be able to score those, but we'll make note for DOE. Heating fuel is the required field here. This gets to some auto calculations and sets the RFP copay for the utility. So be sure to select these. This is required for heating systems, not for cooling, since we pretty much just have AC, electric AC. So you'll see here for system efficiency that we've added a recommended. This is still in beta right now, but we're trying to get to this point where we can quickly and easily make a recommendation to the homeowner that the score will use to model your improvement. I think my initial idea with this is that we would just pre-populate these with minimum rebate levels that most of our programs rebate to. If it's possible to boilerplate these, we will. But if you want to change them, they will be editable. So if you're going to recommend someone goes to 94% instead of 92, for example, you'd be able to do that. But we just kind of want to, yeah, they're probably not going from 96 to 94. So anyway, pretty straightforward there. We're going to try and get recommendations. Oh, yeah.
If there isn't a recommendation, I would just say NA or leave it blank.
Leave it blank. Yeah. Don't put a value in there. Although, Charlie, the way the tool will work is it doesn't mean that. Well, let's talk about this one later, because I may not want you to actually zero that out. I'll just probably have you leave it alone. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It looks like you're recommending their boiler replacement if they see a value here. So,
or just match what the existing AFUE is, and then obviously there's no recommendation there.
Oh, good point. So they got condensing at 92. We're just going to leave it at 92.
Yeah.
Okay. I think for now, that's probably a best way forward. Okay, I don't really think we need to go field by field here, but correct me if I'm wrong. Anyone? Charlie? John Ryan?
I'd say the most important thing is, in terms of home energy score and modeling, what are the most crucial fields here? I mean, if the spec plate's scratched off and you can't find the model number, the manufacturer, I mean, what are the most important fields for modeling?
Yeah, it's the things that you would probably guess. It's system efficiency, AFUE. It's the year installed. The fuel, obviously, the SEER, and the type. So I should probably, require these fields. It's so annoying to have the required fields. But as long as we have the type, efficiency, and year, we're in good shape. And all of these over here, these for, the home energy score, the way this integration is going to work, nothing will fail out. It just may not deliver a sensible score if you've forgotten an input. So if we're talking about duct improvements and you haven't, if you've left these as NA, then the score won't have any recommendations for the ducts. So you know, the requirements of the score are based on the requirements, the recommendations that you make. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, you know, these are all home energy score inputs. These ducts, obviously, if you're boiler heated, these are not going to apply, but heating systems, furnaces with central AC, these are fields we need. And this is our first glimpse into the home energy score area weighted averages. So we need percentage of the total, whether you're in you know, conditioned space or not, for example. So if duct 1 location is in the crawl space, then we want to say vented crawl space here. We want to say it's not insulated, it's not air sealed, there's no mastic on the joints. It's 80% of the total duct distribution. And then they come through the floor, they're now in conditioned space, they're still not insulated or air sealed, and it's 20% left of the total duct distribution in the home.
Will that auto-populate based on what you put in duct location number 1 in terms of percentage?
A little bit. So I can still change it and confuse it. It's not a validated formula field. I'm still kind of working on those finishing touches. I think I can make that one work to automatically go to 40 here if 60 is here. But since there's 3 inputs, it's a little harder to do that on my end. So for now, just make sure you total 100%.
Okay.
All right. So that's roughly quickly heating and cooling. It's already 20 till, so I'm going to try and move along. Just to get the overview, we've tried to pull these photos now into each we've actually added 2 more photos over the old template, but deleted the standalone second photo page. So more photos, just a little more strategically placed. I guess before we move past this too, one thing we're starting to add now are these quick and easy tips for homeowners. These aren't mandatory fields, but if you want to make some recommendations to the homeowner, there's a quick little drop down here for just those DOE boilerplate, you know, tips we call them. So install a solar thermal system. Anyway, those are these Energy Smart tips, and they're on every page, in one for every section. All right, page 4. This is our CAS section. Not much has changed here on the inputs, so we still require the location and the outdoor air temp. We might be editing this as we go to BPI 1200 later in the year if we end up adopting that, but for now, this is it. This is where your gas leaks are yes or no, and your CO detector is present or not. So those are important inputs for this page. Anyway, not much has changed here. Just a little formatting and layout. We've got some pictures for the CAS area if they've done things like blocked makeup air. Tips too for the CAS are the big stuff like flammable materials in the room, vents are free of obstruction, and so forth. Kind of feeling the need to rush along here so we get through this. Water heater page, same inputs: type, manufacturer, model, fuel, efficiency, year installed. And vent type, obviously, for our BPI, for our CAS test, we want to know what your vent type is. These are all standard BPI fields. None of those have changed. The inputs are the same as the old. Hot water fuel is required here, same as heating fuel. We need to know what that is so our math works on our end. System types have been tweaked a little bit from the previous report, I believe. So we have the heat pump water heater type, sidearm basic storage or tankless.
Any recommendations from you guys in terms of system efficiency on sidearm systems?
Silence.
Don't everybody speak at once.
I mean, wouldn't you be recommending the AFU efficiency of the boiler that's feeding the sidearm, so just 94 boilerplate?
That's what I always do, is default to the boiler efficiency.
Okay.
For the sidearm.
Yeah, and just address the insulation on the sidearm or something, wrapping it.
Yeah, I like that. All right.
And for solar system, I felt it was important to add this, but to Greg's point, this is not a home energy score modelable field, but basically we're just flagging this so that they can deal with it on optimizer's end to know there is a solar system feeding this. So we may do some whiz-bangery to help that score, or at least as a flag in our system to tell this homeowner that their score is artificially low if they do have a solar system. So we're just trying to identify that they have a system here. There are no details about that system, just to preheat, hot water. So very basic at this point, but it's better than nothing. Same here, we have an energy smart tips. Put your water temp to 120, really basic stuff. Any pictures of the water heater? We have 4 here because I have the space, but you probably won't use those all the time. Air sealing page, building envelope page. This hasn't changed a lot. We still have this graph here. Most of the information is the same. There's a little bit of tweaks. There have been a little bit of tweaks here just for, we brought back average ceiling height since this is an input that the home energy score requires. And so, if in the simplest iteration of this, the basement ceiling is 8 feet, the main level ceiling is 9. They're the same square footage, so our average ceiling height's 8.5. You don't have to get super detailed about this, but give us a good number up to 2 decimal places for what you're thinking the average ceiling height is, and you see how the numbers change here with different inputs. So average ceiling height is calculated against the square footage to give us this volume. So you'll see my volume change from 13 to 14.6 when I change my ceiling height. So pretty important.
Can that be overridden, the volume? Because if analysts are doing their own volume calcs?
Yeah. No, it can't. So if I have a 15,000 volume target, I'm going to play with this ceiling height until I get there, or I'm going to play with my...
So that's really important to know. So the 2 fields you need to tweak are square footage and average ceiling height to get to the projected volume you want to get to, if you already know the volume.
Exactly. Okay. Yep. And I can get there with a 10.15. I'm getting real close to my 15,000 target. So anyway, great point. N factor is a static field that you put in, refers still to the BPI flow chart that we tag at the end of the report to find your exposure numbers. Down here at the bottom of the table, you'll find your N factors, and then you can return to your CAS section. Oh, actually, we were in the air sealing section, so we'll bounce back to that. Any observations for air sealing? We have 2 fields here for notes and improvements, and then additional observations. I'm not sure, Charlie, what we've told folks the difference here is, but the notes and improvements box is the standard communication to homeowners regarding what you want them to address or focus on. Additional observations, I don't know, could be, take this number with a grain of salt because, your garage is connected to your conditioned space. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any kind of
use it as you deem necessary.
Yeah. Same thing, we got some pull down tips here, not much at this point. But if you have any ideas for tips, shoot them to me and we'll add them to the list, because I do think it's nice people can have these little action items. Just plants that action seed in their head. So anyway, our chart here, we won't get into this today, but we've debated over this target home. we will have to send Home Energy Score a target threshold if we want to include air sealing as a modelable improvement. So we will have this discussion about, 0.35 air change is natural or an ACH 50 number target. So that'll be in the future Energy Smart call, but we'll try and address that soon. So pictures for air sealing or envelope would go here. If you have more than 2, put them on the photo page, and maybe include in your caption here, refer to photo page for additional, that sort of thing. Okay, still in building envelope, now we're on the assemblies. This is one of the most dramatic changes to our inputs for R values. Home Energy Score wants these 3 assembly types: roofs, foundations, and walls. And so we basically try and do a better job describing each of these, but it's way more focused. So if I'm 100% of my roof is in unconditioned attic, you can see the math automatically updated me to 0 here. Works here because I only have 2 fields to validate. So I can say 100% of the roof is unconditioned attic with a radiant barrier that I've observed, and comp shingles, and R11. And I'm going to recommend, R60 if you're in Aspen. The rest of these just stay as NA. They'll come to you as NA on the blank template. So if you're 100%, it's very quick and easy to describe the roof. If you have 2 different roof types, say you've got, cathedral ceiling in the great room, and that's 20% of your wall area, you got to change it here first. So change that to 80, this will change to 20. The construction on that is, EPA is SIPs, and it's still comp shingle, and that's a 38 panel, and you still would recommend 60 even though they're not going to do anything to that assembly. Okay, so pretty straightforward for roofs, but a little more detail on the construction type and the finish that we use to collect. We worked with Optimizer to pass through a default, what is it called, Greg? The albedo, the reflectivity number. So we're using a medium reflectivity, so we didn't need that input for each of the roof types. So that saved a little bit of green damage. Same with foundations, for the most part, this is going to be, your conditioned basements, 80, your garage is slab. No insulation maybe in the garage. We would recommend, it's okay to recommend something they're not going to do. We just want the tool to have something to point them towards. So,
Marty, would we identify the foundation type for an unconditioned area like a garage? Does that even come into play, or are we just focused on the foundation underneath the conditioned part of the building?
Sorry, you're correct. It's just the conditioned part of the building. So this is assuming a conditioned garage. So great point. Okay, so wall 1 and 2, same deal. This is going to come populated with all 1 wall type. And these will be blank for your second wall type. So assuming 100%, these are your Home Energy Score aspects, right? The front, right, back, and left that we talked about. Pretty rare, I'm hoping, but they have a mass wall on the south or something. You will be describing that separately as a second wall type here. Most of our homes, I think, are pretty much wood framed or SIP panel 100%, but when they're not, try and describe the second most prevalent wall type here. So if they have 10% of a wall being a mass wall, you would do concrete block or structural brick for this. They don't have poured concrete, so we'll just have to use what's closest.
Marty.
Yeah. So it's
I was just going to
whatever.
say that the aspects have to add up to 100%, don't they?
Yes, but this is for each aspect. So on the front, if it's 100% mass wall, then it's going to be 0% wood frame, 100%
Oh, right,
block,
right.
right? Does that make sense to everybody? It takes a little getting used to this. And Greg, if you have any insight, please chime in.
No, I think you're doing great. Again, yeah, you got to do what if the home has multiple assemblies, you got to do your best to pick the dominant ones for the audit, and you're on the right path. Keep going.
Okay.
What about different stories though? Because typically you'll have basements that'll have sort of built into a hillside. You'll have a cement wall on a lower level.
Right.
With a frame on the next two. Does the aspect apply to the average across 3 stories or middle
Yeah.
story or?
Yes, the exposed aspect. So if 50% is wood frame and 50% is exposed concrete, then you describe it like so.
Okay.
I would pick the dominant assembly, and then what's challenging is the home energy score. You can't really control the outputs other than you could go to the lowest insulation level that you observed if you wanted that recommendation to come up to add insulation to an assembly. But what's nice is using both reports, we can put open recommendations in the Energy Smart report. And if anything, I've been finding that the score under recommends, like I'm not sure they're using the 2014 IECC because like a lot of times it won't come up for insulation when I definitely feel like insulation should be added to an assembly. And it's a little frustrating at times, but again, it's still a good motivational tool, miles per gallon for the home. And then we use the Energy Smart report for the detailed recommendations because the score recommendations are very bland in general.
Great point. Yeah, and I'm not afraid to work with them to keep improving that score if we can. And I know you've been working with them ad nauseum.
Yeah, again, base load, things like pipe insulation for domestic hot water or boiler lines. Generally, actually, boiler lines will come up on the score, but hot water piping in a vented crawl space will not come up on the score because that's a base load.
Yeah.
So you just have to put that in the Energy Smart report that you want them to insulate their pipes.
All right. So anyway, that's the big one. Any questions about this, call myself or Charlie, and we'll help demystify those inputs for our values and assemblies. Photos here, tips. All right, running out of time. Building envelope, windows and doors is our last section in the envelope. Similar to what you've seen before. But now we describe the front, right, back, and left aspects of the home and provide a square footage for each. These are not like you got out to your laser tape and measured every single window and climbed up on ladders on the second story and measured those. I mean, this is like very down and dirty calculation of window areas. Greg, do you have any advice on this one?
Well, in the second story ones, you can always measure them from the inside, but yeah, it's to the nearest foot. Don't strain yourself on it because the energy score is a fairly coarse tool. So, yeah. And it does do a heat loss calculation for the assembly on each wall. So get it to the nearest foot and blow, I don't want to say totally blow and go, but once you've measured 1 or 2 windows on the home, your eye is pretty good for that. So
absolutely.
I found the easiest way of doing this is to do an exterior walkabout and photograph each aspect of the building, and then when you go back to your desk, you can pretty much approximate the window dimensions and the quantities and nail these numbers down pretty easily.
Yeah, 3x4 window.
Just through photos.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I like to do that walk around anyhow to look at all the venting from crawl space to what's coming through the attic and skylights. So I get a photo of every aspect first thing.
Yeah.
Similarly.
Nikki, was that you?
Marty, this is Kim Wheels down in Telluride.
Oh, hey, Kim.
Hey, Kim.
Okay. In the past, I believe I remember the instructions being just to measure the areas of the windows that you were recommending to be replaced or have some improvement. How do we identify specific windows for that if we're measuring the area of the entire thing to get the score? Because at a cost estimate from a window estimator, they're going to need the area of just those windows, not all of them.
Right. I mean, we just mentioned that to you in the past, Kim, to save you time. The home energy score, if it doesn't have any values in here, it's not going to make there won't be any useful upgrade information for the windows. So we're just encouraging you to at least make an estimate for each aspect of the house of what the square footage is existing, whether or not you're recommending windows.
Kim, to answer your question, I would just make that recommendation and enter those values under notes and improvements. They're not only notes to the homeowner, but also notes to you that you can do takeoffs with.
Yeah. One other little thing is if you if a client ordered a window based on your measurements and it came in wrong, because of a stucco finish or a trim, I would just say, hey, I recommend this window being replaced, and it's roughly this dimension, but have your contractor do the exact measurements.
Yeah. This is John. I actually, had one that wanted all his windows done, and I just, didn't, pick and choose. You just tell them which ones and let the contractor do it, because at that point there's no sticking our nose in the middle of a liability.
Yeah. And
my energy auditor assistant does represents a window replacement company, so he's typically been the one who's done those measurements specifically, and so that's been incorporated into the report. So
okay.
So I hear what you're saying, liability, but when he's on site and he's the one that would be replacing the windows, it's a very useful space to put that in.
All right. Well, then I think Charlie's point is great. You can put those actuals down here in the notes and improvements.
Okay. I frequently run.
Or Kim, he could have a separate notepad and have more detailed notes for his own use.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Kim, the energy score just models the heat loss on each wall assembly. So it's just the square footage of windows on each wall. So that's for the modeling. That's what the tool is looking for. But you've got a different use with that's an added value that he can measure that specifically for them, and that's great.
Could I ask a question, please? This is Andy.
Yeah.
On the window, how does it know the program, the wall square footage area, and then I know the window area, but how does it know the wall area of that wall, whether it be the front one, the rear one, side, or whatever? Second question is sliding doors.
This is John. It's the home energy score model. It basically considers everybody lives in a box. So basically, based on your square footage calculations and your average wall height, they calculate this box. And I don't know, DOE has
no, that makes total sense. Where it's coming with thousands of homes, and this is what it came to.
Right. And it does allow for a more detailed input on the shape of that box, but we don't send that metric right now. We might in the future.
Okay. And sliding doors are windows, or do you want us to input that as a window area?
No, not at this point, even though we all know they would be modeled as windows. Not at this point. We're just asking for windows. Sliding glass describe here. Yeah. And then right now we have a recommended window here, probably going to be a default as well. You know, no krypton filled 4 pane, but anyway. Okay, I think that's it for Windows. Lighting and appliances, real quick through here. These are not home energy score inputs, but you know, if you are focused on a lighting improvement, then we're trying to describe the current situation here and make any recommendations here. This is not home energy score inputs. Charlie, any comments on lighting or appliances?
No, I just find that the walkthrough count on the total number of incandescents and or halogens is really helpful, especially for you if you're going to come back and do bulb replacements, just to have some concept of what you're dealing with.
Great.
And then Marty, taking a step backwards on the window recommendations, would it be helpful to have recommended U values instead that would align with our rebate criteria or code compliance?
We can
instead of the assembly makeup.
Yeah, we can discuss that. Right now, the score makes that call based on this assembly. These are optimizer inputs, so we can discuss that.
Okay.
All right, appliances, last section here, describe the fridge, freezer, washer, dryer, E-start or not. Really basic stuff. I don't think any of those inputs have really changed. We've just been a little more consistent now. Try and grab the load from the door label if you can for annual usage and see if there's a real opportunity there for improvement or not. Condenser coils were inspected, whether they have a hot tub or not, what the temp is, any notes.
Does everybody on the call here use that home energy refrigerator database to input the refrigerator model number and get the kilowatt hours per year? That's really a handy tool.
No, Charlie, would you mind sending that out though?
Yeah, who was that who does not use it?
We don't use that, John Ryan.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I mean, if it's on the label plate, the kWh per year will easily stick it in there.
It's rarely on the door plate. I'll send that over to you.
Cuba Cavallo is another really good refrigerator freezer database, and the ones on the door label aren't adjusted for the age, but Cuba Cavallo, I can send that link out. That's one we used to use in weatherization to check the refrigerators and freezers, and it's a really robust database.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg, would you send that to me, and then I'll distribute that out to the analysts? For sure. Thanks.
Great. All right, and then last section here is other. Anything else that we haven't covered in the report already? Note here on the improvements and any details you can provide for, say, a contractor if it's a complex situation. Could be outside the scope of energy, could be energy related that we just missed, could be a unique heating system or whatever, structural issue, moisture issue, whatever, drainage even. And then your conclusions, still one big sort of narrative on what you conclude, any big takeaways for the homeowner. All right. Any other questions? I wanted to talk about the RFP page here real quick. I know we're over on time, but any questions?
Were you going to get to just a little bit of the submittal?
Yeah, so these last few pages, we haven't really changed much. Couple of minor tweaks. But I guess this is pretty important stuff. On page 12, it used to just be blank at the bottom. Now we have some info regarding the rebates that may or may not be available in their area. And so we're asking you to sort of identify, what their utility is. I realize there's a couple here I need to add now. But I'm Atmos Energy down in Durango, and I have La Plata Electric. There's going to be incentives from both of those utilities, and their web pages are just accessible right there in the report. So kind of a nice little addition for the homeowner. When you email this to them, they'll be able to click right to their rebate providers, and
Do
they'll.
you click on links in a flattened report?
Sorry?
No.
Do you click on links in a flattened report?
No, not when it's flattened.
Which it's always going to be flattened.
That's something I haven't really settled on yet. I am interested in crunching the file size. In this new template, we can really reduce the file size and not flatten it. So there might be ways to deliver a good looking product that still has clickable links.
Hey, Marty. I know ESC is not a utility, obviously, but they are definitely a rebate provider, and they should probably be on this available rebate list with that link, because that just facilitates this whole valley and Eagle County's ability to check out the rebates. I'm wondering if we want to include that also.
Okay, great.
Cool. Yeah.
Liz, can you add San Miguel Power Association as well?
Yeah.
Electric.
Okay.
Thank you.
Add Empire Electric, as well as La Plata Electric.
Cool. Yeah.
Is it Empire Electric Association?
Yeah, Empire Electric Association. That's Montezuma and Dolores counties. They have a 50% up to $500 incentive.
Oh, great.
Over there.
Same as ours. Okay, perfect. All right, so getting to this RFP page, real briefly, we've gotten rid of line volt thermostats just because we don't really consider those a quick fix anymore. We kind of realized that was pretty tough to manage on our end. So if you do recommend line volt thermostats, put them in touch with the electrician and make that note in the report. But it's not something we'll be providing anymore as a quick fix. So we know based on what I selected above for my region, where the address is, that I have $100 available for quick fixes because I'm in the Roaring Fork Valley here, and Atmos is my provider. So the tool is now calculating this number. So we shouldn't have to mess with that at all. And then obviously if you have any mileage to add it here, same as before. But the math should be doing just a little more accurate calculation of the actual cost to the participant and to the program. So,
Marty, did you say the quick fix total defaults to 100 or 50? I thought it defaulted to 50 based on pies.
it'll be 50 in all of your areas. This is 100 right now because this one's in Glenwood Springs.
So this is a very important part of all of our workflows. I think it's important mentioning. For example, when Nikki generates a PDF to send to an analyst, we have to change that to 100 before we send it to the analyst.
No, it'll be automatically calculated now.
Oh, based on region?
Based on region.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, double check it for sure, but we should not have to add it anymore.
But the other thing that we have to check, John Ryan, is the participant base cost.
Yeah, the base assessment cost or the participant?
Well, that applies mostly to me for the PIES analysts because their cost is 150, not 100.
Yeah. Yeah, usually the field I tweak is the base assessment cost. I start at 300 for the all electric and go to 350 for the CAS.
Yeah, and let me know if this is not calculating either, because participant base should also be auto-calc. That will say 150 in Atmos territory outside of our valleys. So that should also be accurate.
Okay. Okay. And then program discount, can that be put in through Salesforce, or if it was a $50 discount from a home show, do we need to put that on manually?
You need to put it in here manually and make sure to include the minus.
And that's before we send it. Essentially, if we send to the report to the analyst and they don't have that on there, it'll screw it up on there. So we need to do this front end work before we send it to the analyst.
Yeah, if you have a discount, you need to put it in here first. Yep.
Yeah, and make sure you put a minus sign there.
Yeah, exactly. And then the utility copays will be calculated. If there's one from both electric and gas, they'll be calculated here. And you'll see, this will show you accurately now in the Roaring Fork Valley, this person's getting $150 from, Clear or Core or Walking Mountains, whoever's providing the additional funding there. Works really well here. Greg, you're going to have a challenge where you have that Durango block grant, and we'll continue to have our same challenges down there with your additional incentives.
That's a good challenge to have extra incentives.
Absolutely. All right, we still require job hours to be in here, so we know how long it took you to do this report, including travel time, report time, follow-up. So put a good number in there.
Assistants. If you have an assistant with you, you're also adding their man hours.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last nugget here is this submit for payment button. I still think we have some organizational questions to answer as far as who's going to deliver the report to the homeowner, and we're still pretty flexible on that. But for right now, all you have to do to get paid is press this button, and I'm going to press it here in Acrobat Pro just to show you the steps. Similar on the iPad and PDF Expert, it'll ask you to save this file. So right now the submit button's doing two things. It's sending the data to our database, and it's prompting you to save your completed assessment file. Now this will go straight to Dropbox. The first time you do this, it'll you'll have to point to your completed folder. If you're Greg, you're in the Dubit folder. If you're Kim, you're going into your Wheels folder, and then pointing it at completed assessments. Okay, so I'm going to save this as test. Now that's in Dropbox under completed assessments, and Charlie can see it. And now you can see here, you don't see this feedback on the iPad, but we can see now that the data is going out to the database so that we get your assessment information as well. So now we have your completed PDF. You don't have to email it, and we have the data.
And just one important note, I will routinely, on a weekly basis, delete those completed assessments out of that folder. So that is not a storage folder for you for your completed assessments.
Yeah.
You need to also put it in another folder on your hard drive for your own record.
Yeah, that's a good point. Always make a duplicate for your files. And I'd recommend not flattening, keep your duplicate in full file format. On the iPad, you'll be redirected to this URL. It doesn't look at this awful. It takes you back to Energy Smart Colorado to show you that it was received. And we've had a couple issues with analysts and their Dropbox getting it going the first time. Just make sure you point it to your completed assessments folder. Charlie's been having some issues with his computer on Dropbox, so hopefully we're going to get those figured out. But
Marty, can you describe what you're talking about? Dropbox? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So just so you guys know, if you do have some issues where you're, convinced that we should be seeing your completed assessment.
Yeah, the deploy folder with all those analysts. Mm-hmm. That's the same structures we have with like guide intention.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So so most of you PIES analysts are in this virtual folder. You don't see ESC deploy anymore, but you just see your last name as your folder, and then within there you have assigned and completed. But John Ryan, we're having this thing where like right now I just saved this and there it is. Okay, today 10:15, no problem. But I've turned off my Dropbox syncing for this webinar. Sometimes Charlie is not seeing this completed file being uploaded. It also takes a long time, we discovered on Tuesday. The analyst was swearing up and down. He hit save and it was in there, and we didn't see it for several hours afterwards. So there are some integrations issues, but we're working through them. I don't think there's anything too major. If it doesn't show up here, Charlie's just going to the online version of Dropbox and pulling down the copy of the completed assessment. So
but the intention here is you're saying when you hit the submit button, based on conditional logic like who the analyst is and things like that, the PDF is actually then saving a flattened or saved version of that PDF to their Dropbox?
Not that fancy. All the button is doing is prompting you to save as a full, not flattened PDF. You're the one as the analyst who are directing that to your completed folder the first time you run it. Yeah.
And you have to wait for that full download dialog to stop before that pops up, don't you?
On Acrobat Pro you do, on the iPad you don't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because really the first 1 second of that dialog window is all you need to trigger Salesforce, and then I close it usually.
Yeah, yeah. I let it go to like 100K and then it's good.
Hey, you guys, I would, if it's reassuring for you, and I know it's more reassuring for me, I would encourage you to also just send me a quick email. Hey, I just submitted ESC 10582. That's all I need, just so I know you hit that submit button and you know you did. And just because of this sort of quirky early phase implementation of this version, so
it's a great idea.
Feel free to send me an email just for our reassurance.
Yeah, and just so we can make sure everything's firing on our end and we don't miss anybody.
Yeah.